everybody, I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me once again is my colleague, Alan Ohnsman, a senior editor here at Forbes and author of the Current Climate newsletter. Alan, thanks so much for joining me.
Hi, Brittany. Great to be with you as always.
It is great to be with you as always, discussing your latest on Tesla. Your reporting indicates that the company's semi-truck will be hitting the road soon. But you note in your piece that in Tesla's last earnings call, Elon Musk talked a lot about AI, humanoid robots, and the cybercab. But I want to quote what you wrote. You said this: "What he failed to mention, and no one bothered to ask about, was literally the biggest model rollout in Tesla's history, the electric semi that's due in the first half of the year." So if this is so historic to the company, why did no one bother to bring it up?
I guess because at this point it probably isn't so historic anymore. The product is going into regular production supposedly in the first half of the year. At least that's what was included in the annual report. And this is many, many years after it was first promised. I was at the unveiling in 2017 when the original prototype was shown off. At that point, the expectation was it would be out by 2019, 2020. Those dates came and went. Then the release date was pushed back to 2023. There was sort of a limited production run for test fleets that happened then, and then they pushed back the start of production to 2026. So the timing is odd for a couple of reasons, but most importantly, on the earnings call and everything that Elon is saying these days is Tesla's not an EV company anymore. It's an AI and robotics company and robotaxi company. So that makes the arrival of this product a little unusual. It feels sort of like Ghost in the Machine. It's an effort that was begun years ago, and it is continuing, but it's hard to say how, there was certainly no enthusiasm for the the product expressed on the call, and one would think that given how few new products Tesla is introducing at the moment, that it would have just at least gotten passing reference. It received none during the call.
Before we go any further, I just want to ask you, because I cover mostly politics. I'm not in the car space. I'm not in the electric vehicle space. I'm just an average person who, when I think of Tesla, I don't think of AI and robotics. I think of electric vehicles. Do you think there's a disconnect then as to where Elon Musk wants to go with this company versus what the average consumer thinks about what Tesla really is?
I think you really, hit the nail on the head right there, because that is the challenge. He's trying to do this pivot rapidly, and it seems very risky. As we discussed the last time, they've had back-to-back years of annual declines in their EV sales. They have very little in the way of new product coming on the EV side, and they just killed off two core models, the Model S and the Model X. And the S in particular, the sedan, is really a historic vehicle. That is such an important vehicle in the history of the electric vehicle industry. It was the first truly modern kind of next generation EV, and Tesla owes everything to that particular car. And so this sort of unceremonious announcement of its death was a surprise, I guess. Not entirely surprising, because the numbers aren't that great. It doesn't sell in large volume. But the fact now that they're going down to, at the moment, just the Model 3 and the Model Y, Cybertruck, and then maybe this new two-door cybercab that may also come out this year. But that's it. And so they are primarily still an EV company in terms of their sales, but he just doesn't want people to view them that way anymore, that the company's evolving, it's changing. And it's very abrupt, the way he's wanting to do this. And that was a big point of the call as well, that he really wanted to underscore that we're making this pivot. It's sort of like we're burning the boats and we're never going back again. Like, we're an AI company now, just live with it. So it is going to confuse, I think, a lot of consumers, perhaps.
So then this is a drastic change from where we were almost a decade ago. In 2017, Elon Musk, as you said, he unveils the semi-truck. Now it's 2026. You're saying these are set to hit the road. The timing couldn't be worse. Talk to us more about that timing and why, in your opinion, and lay out the case here for why this timing's not so good right now.
Yeah, well, it goes back to a very simple thing. We are under a new federal administration that does not prioritize electric vehicles, and in fact, is very hostile to them. Last year brought the end of consumer subsidies from the federal government, the $7,500 tax credit. There was a $40,000 federal incentive for electric trucks that is now gone. In the simplest, summary, basically, regulatory changes have made the market very unattractive for electric trucks. Last year, I noted in the piece that the company Nikola, which had survived a pretty, wild early period, had actually gotten to market. They were delivering both battery electric trucks, semi-trucks, and hydrogen fuel cell semi-trucks. Their customers loved them. They were selling, a few hundred a month, but they ran out of cash. And they filed for bankruptcy at the beginning of, in May of 2025. And it was like the reality was we just, the regulatory circumstances have changed. The market has changed. There is no push by the federal government to get these on the road anymore. Therefore, customers are not interested, and they couldn't find the additional funds they needed. A year later, here comes Tesla now, finally, with the Tesla Semi, and it's going to be tough to find buyers for it. So things have changed very dramatically. I know I was writing about companies that had all sorts of battery electric semi-trucks on the market. Volvo is still there, Daimler is there, Kenworth. Were making these things available. Traditional big semi makers were out there. Cummins had a project to do batteries for Class 8 semi-trucks with some other companies. All of that has kind of gone quiet at the moment. And so on the one hand, the market stinks. Tesla is kind of the only game in town, so maybe by default, it sort of does okay. But just to point out a very simple thing, the Class 8 semi market, it's not that big. Nationally, last year in the United States, about 245,000 new semi trucks were sold. That is a fraction of like the 16.5 million passenger vehicles. So we're already talking about a pretty small market.
I mean, it sounds like there's a few factors here that are stacked up against Tesla, some hurdles to climb. The market's unattractive for these trucks. Who would be buying a Tesla semi-truck? I mean, who has the appetite for that? What types of companies?
Well, there are some big fleets out there that probably will buy them. And I did speak with DHL, and their head of transportation said, look, we've been testing a couple of these. It'll work for us. We can set this up, and we'd like to get more. And we're waiting to get more. They placed their first order back in 2017, so they've been very patient. PepsiCo has been a big user, and PepsiCo probably operates the largest fleet, something like 100 of these that were part of that 2023 test fleet production that Tesla did. So PepsiCo has been a customer. So they will get contracts with some very big fleets, which will be helpful. But it's hard to say how much of this is really serious and how much of it is sort of greenwashing by some of the companies who just want to look like they're still doing good things and being good corporate citizens. There are some issues related to electric semis that make them uniquely challenging versus, say, smaller types of EVs. And that is that they have massive batteries, and it takes a very long time and a lot of electric power to recharge these. So that means that setting up infrastructure to charge them is a significant investment. And so that's why, for the most part, we'll probably only see some of the bigger fleets with deep pockets being willing to take a chance on the product.
How much are these going to cost, A? And B, how exactly do you think, based on what we know so far, that Tesla Semi is going to stack up to its competition out there?
Well, In terms of cost, as we note in the story, in 2017, Elon Musk estimated that it would be about $180,000. I don't know the exact price, but it's probably double that at the moment. It's probably, approaching $400,000 all in. The company has not put out public pricing. DHL would decline to disclose what they're paying for it. They did sort of hint that it's in that range of, say, $360 to $400,000 each, and that is more than a conventional semi truck. A new semi you can probably get for about $250,000, $300,000. So that's one drag against it. The other is this truck. Musk promoted it as being very low cost to operate compared to a diesel truck. And I used his original math. At the time in 2017, when he unveiled this, the national average price for electricity was like 7 cents a kilowatt hour, and diesel fuel was like $2.90 a gallon. And he said, based on that, the Tesla Semi would have a 20% cost advantage to own and operate because your cost of fuel would be much lower. Well, fast forward to today, power prices nationally have tripled. So we're looking at about between 18 and 20 cents per kilowatt hour. Diesel fuel costs more, but it hasn't risen by that much. The average for a gallon of diesel across the country is about $3.60 a gallon. So diesel has gone up, 15, 20%, but that's not as much as the tripling in electricity prices. And where I am, I'm in Los Angeles. In California, we're well above 30 cents a kilowatt hour. So if you were buying the truck to save money, you're going to be very disappointed because your cost of fuel, electricity versus diesel, right now, electricity is going to cost you more.
You note in your piece that back in 2017, Elon Musk said that Tesla jumping into the commercial vehicle business would completely change and transform the industry. Now it seems like the tides have changed in the past 8 or 9 years. According to your reporting, the federal support around EVs really isn't there. The tides have kind of changed when it comes to that, paired with Elon Musk pivoting from being all in on EVs to saying essentially, hey, Tesla isn't really an electric vehicle company anymore. So is there any indication to you that the Tesla Semi is going to completely transform the industry?
I would say no, in terms of completely transform. It does have some advantages over what we've seen in the electric truck space so far, and that is range. It's a promised real world range of 500 miles. That is considerably more than anything that has been available. The Nikola semis and the Volvo semis and some of the others that have been out there do about 300. The top end was around 300 miles per fueling. So a 500-mile fueling advantage is significant. That's a big deal, and that's what really interests DHL because they're saying, look, we've tried a lot of the other electric trucks, and we like the fact that this one has this greater range. It gives us more comfort. Not that they want to max out the range, it's that they know that it can safely do short and sort of medium haul runs from warehouses to distribution centers and things like that with no problems. So it gives more comfort margin to have that buffer. So the 500-mile range is a big deal and will be very helpful. And they are the first to market with that level of range. So that will be good. In terms of just going back to, customers, who's going to buy it, there is one place where there will be some demand. And again, that's here in California. The state of California does have pretty generous incentives available for electric semi-trucks. And that's mainly because of the bad air quality we have at the ports of LA and Long Beach and Oakland. Some of these big ports, and especially in Southern California, air quality is just atrocious. So the state of California does make available and does try to push companies to electrify their fleets to help cut just plain old exhaust emissions to clean up the air. And that's where most of these are going to end up, realistically. They'll be in fleets across the country, I'm sure, with some big companies. But I think the heaviest concentration will be in California, and especially Southern California, simply because the state of California really wants as many of these as possible on the road purely to cut exhaust emissions.
You and I have been having so many different conversations about Tesla for almost the past year. We've talked about everything from Elon Musk himself, his historic pay package, the robo-taxis and how they compare to other competitors, and so many other different components of the company. And I'm curious, when you're looking at Tesla as a whole, how does this story about the semis hitting the road, how does that puzzle piece really fit in, do you think?
To be honest, I don't think it does. It feels like it's a carryover from an earlier iteration of the company. But as Musk is moving on, it feels like an afterthought. And the problem is the momentum was there to build this thing. It's coming off of a brand new factory line at the Gigafactory in Nevada that opens this year. The curious thing is, again, Musk keeps pointing out we're not an EV company anymore. We're an AI company. And this feels like, an initiative that was begun several years ago that took a long time to come to fruition. And it's just hitting, it is a bad time, both in terms of where the market is and where regulations are, but also where the company is. When you have the head of the company saying, EVs, that's not really our thing anymore. And yet here comes this thing that is this massive new electric vehicle. It's an oddity, frankly. And I really don't know, does it have a long shelf life? Does it just come out for a couple of years? They try to pack as many as they can into California and max out on the state EV credits from state incentives and rebates here. And then they just pull the plug on it. It's hard to say, but given everything that's been happening at Tesla, how committed they're going to be to this product, I think is a huge question mark.
Do you think then there is a world where Elon Musk is like, you know what, we're moving in a different direction? And you've seen businesses do this time and time again. If something's not working, if they move in a different direction, they cut their losses and they scrap the idea. Do you think, because I know, as you said, this idea has been years in the making, he would scrap it imminently? I mean, before more hit the road?
Well, I don't know if it would be scrapped imminently. I think they're going to throw it out there and see what kind of demand there is for it. The other thing is the biggest customer for this is going to be Tesla itself and probably SpaceX. His companies will buy them or use them. He still has to deliver vehicles from the factory, those that he's still making. So those will show up on Tesla semis. So he'll be his own best customer for it, I'm sure. And I'm sure he can fluff up the numbers by having in the Tesla fleet as many of these as possible. The curious thing that I noted in the piece, though, was up until the third quarter of last year, the Tesla assembly line had 50,000 units of capacity. That's what it was being scaled for. Interestingly, in Q4, they completely eliminated that reference. So the numerical reference to how much production capacity it's going to have was gone. And I think that's very telling, like that maybe they'll end up repurposing that line for something else in the not too distant future.
Do you think any of this has any impact on Elon Musk's bottom line? Because I remember one of our first conversations on Tesla was about your piece. Things are bad at Tesla. They're about to get much worse. But we've only seen Elon Musk get richer and richer in the last year. I mean, just this last week, within the past week, Forbes reported that Elon Musk became the first person to ever be worth $800 billion. And this was after SpaceX acquired XAI. And as you and I sit here, it's Monday afternoon, Elon Musk's fortune is almost worth $850 billion. I mean, he's just getting richer and richer, and it doesn't seem like Tesla is, having these blockbuster ideas that are moneymakers. What do you make of that?
Well, it is the textbook definition of a meme stock here, the disconnect between the actual financial results and where the stock is trading. If you are investing in Tesla right now, you're doing it. It's a faith-based financial decision. You believe that he's going to, work new wonders. When the whole point of that story last year and what we talked about, things are bad, they're going to get worse. All of that has been accurate. The deterioration in their finances is real. the PE ratio, where the stock is trading, it's 300 or 400 times actual earnings. That's gotten worse over that period. There are people who believe Elon can work miracles. I mean, the big question to think about, and unfortunately, I think a lot of equity analysts just get sort of caught up in the frothiness of Tesla stock and stop doing actual numbers and thinking through the implications of this shift in the business. Tesla's had a remarkably profitable, high revenue business for many, many years, from cars, from batteries, from charging services. All of those are very, very good businesses. The Chinese are pressuring Tesla on the EV business, and so that's made things much tougher. The battery business is still doing great because there's huge demand for batteries. And charging services also remains a good business. Tesla's selling electricity to people who want to charge their EVs through their existing network. Those are really good businesses. The businesses that he wants to move into, robotaxi, humanoid robotics, AI, I don't really know, at what stage Tesla's really going to be able to show significant revenue from robotaxi. Right now, it's still essentially zero. Waymo, which did a massive fundraise last week, another $16 billion. Waymo is closing in on 500,000 paid rides every week at a minimum $20 a pop. By the end of the year, they're going to be at 1 million rides a week. The math on them it's easy to see directionally where their revenue is. We don't have any guidance like that on Tesla at this point. So we don't know how much real revenue they're going to be able to book from robotaxi. Humanoid robotics, I couldn't begin to tell you when that's really going to be, a line on the revenue sheet, when we see their quarterly numbers. So it's a huge bet with no hard data to back it up. Robotaxi is very speculative. Humanoid robotics is far more speculative at this point in terms of when those become businesses. So one would think, it's not a bad idea to keep building out keep your core businesses strong as you add new businesses. But in this case, what we're seeing is an abandonment of the core businesses for the most part to make this shift to something else. And that seems incredibly risky. So the Elon Musk's wealth and where Tesla is trading have no real connection to Tesla's actual finances. That's the challenging thing. And I'm hardly the first person to point this out, but yeah, it is, anything is possible in terms of what can happen with that stock when it trades this way. And again, it's like Bitcoin or other forms of crypto or speculative investment. It's like you're betting on what you believe, and it's a bet on faith and that Elon can deliver these things. There was an interesting equity or analyst report that came out last week about with the SpaceX IPO and the sudden unexpected merger of XAI and SpaceX into one company. And I thought it was a curious point that the analyst made, who also covers Tesla, that this is a risk to Tesla's status as a meme stock, because now there are going to be two Musk meme stocks out there, the combined SpaceX XAI and Tesla. So, that's going to split the market there for where people are making these bets. So I think he might not be wrong. Like if you're thinking, well, what's the most exciting new thing out there? Maybe SpaceX looks a little more, like that seems pretty cool. So maybe some of the money's going to move there that might have been going into Tesla. So I thought that was kind of an interesting view. But I think the point is correct. But all of this goes down to the fact that it's a meme stock. There's no other way to look at it. It is the ultimate meme stock, I think.
Well, there's certainly a lot to look out for as we see the semis hitting the road amongst everything that we're watching when it comes to Tesla. And I hope you and I can have another conversation on it soon. Alan, I always appreciate it. Thanks for joining me.
Great to be with you. Thanks, Brittany.